Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2022 Subaru Crosstrek, we're going to be showing you how to install the Curt custom fit vehicle wiring harness. Before we do that though, let's take a minute, check it out, and make sure it's going to work for you. So with these Crosstreks, people use them to do a lot of different things, right? And that does include pulling some trailers around. And if you plan on doing that, you're going to want all the lights to work on it. That way you're safe and legal. That's where a wiring kit like this is going to come into play. One of the nice things about this setup, you can actually keep it inside, out of sight, and out of the weather when you're not using it. And so when you're ready to hook up, you can open up your hatch, and I just have ours stored right under our floor covering. And grab it, and you want to drop it over the top of the threshold. Just make sure you stay away from the latch. Don't want to get it hung up in there. And close the hatch on it. It might seem kind of odd doing this, but you're not going to hurt the wiring, you're not going to hurt the hatch. It's set up to be able to handle something like this. And we're going to have plenty of length to be able to plug in to our trailer. This is a 4-way flat style connector, which is really common for the types of trailers that the Crosstrek is likely to be pulling around. And not to mention too, nowadays light up style accessories are getting more and more popular. And essentially all of them, generally speaking, will have this same connector as well. So if that's something you have, chances are really good this will power that up as well. And so you're going to get your basic lighting functions, your tail lights, your brake lights, and your turn signals. So you have all your bases covered there. And compared to some of the other kits, for example, the Takancha kit, pretty much the same. I really don't have a major preference over one or the other. I do like how the Curt and the Takancha give you quite a bit of wiring here. So more than enough. You know, it drops down real far, and you should be good in terms of plugging your trailer in. As with the Hopkins kit, you kind of get shortchanged a little bit. The wiring usually only seems to come down to about here. And so in some scenarios, it can definitely be a stretch to get plugged in. I do want to mention, if you happen to have a hybrid model of Crosstrek, this wiring is not going to work with it. But all the other submodels, you should be in good shape. If you do happen to have a hybrid, the good news is there's other kits available that are compatible with it. So definitely check our fit guide and see those if that's what you got. But other than that, at the end of the day, you know, not really a whole lot to it. Curt's wiring has come a long way past several years in terms of quality, and really don't ever get any complaints with it, for sure. As far as the installation goes, it's one of the best parts. You know, in terms of trailer wiring, it's really straightforward. You have a couple panels here that you can pop out. Everything just more or less unsnaps apart and plug into a factory connector. You got one ground that you need to connect, secure the little box, and that's really all there is to it. So shouldn't give you too many issues or take up a bunch of your time, but if this is something you're doing yourself, feel free to hang around. We'll go ahead and get going on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Crosstrek and open up the hatch. We need to locate a factory connector plug, which should be somewhere here in this back area. So first thing we'll do is remove any floor coverings and get them out of the way for now. We can move on to these little foam pieces now. And so these are held in place, these push pin fasteners. And with these, are really easy to break, it seems like. A trick that I found over the years, take your trim tool or flathead screwdriver, get underneath the base of it, but apply some pressure, downward pressure with your thumb while you're prying up on it, and it seems to pull them right out without any damage occurring. So yeah, we'll get this one out. The other one is right here, and this foam piece is split in two, so it's identical on the other side of her car. We'll lift this out, do the same thing to get that one removed. We can get this threshold piece removed, and so on each end of it, you're going to have a push pin fastener. These pretty much work the same. And a pry out on the head of it, and then you're able to pull the whole base out. With those push pins out, this essentially is just snapped into place now. So what you can do is just kind of pull up on it and work your way across there. And these little fasteners, that's what was actually holding it in place. So that's what was unsnapping, and we'll set this off to the side for now. Over on the driver's side, with that threshold out of the way, this is the factory connector that we're looking for. So they got it taped up. I'm just going to carefully cut that tape off and make it a little bit easier to work with. We're able to grab our wiring connector now, and this end is going to match up with our factory connector. So we'll just plug that right on in, and we're going to need to find a spot to ground this ring terminal as well as mount up our box here. And I think we'll have some space underneath this little panel. So we'll pop that up. Just start by pulling up on these sides here. That pops out of place. And we'll go somewhere in here probably. So I'll figure that out, and you know, we'll let you know what we end up coming up with. Really didn't see nothing too great from that panel that we removed, so I think we're going to check back here. And to get this piece unsnapped, with Phillips head screw there, we'll just pull this out. And then essentially this should more or less just kind of unsnap. Give us some room back here, and looks like we'll have quite a few more options and potentially even a factory ground that we can use. Definitely going to use this factory ground here. So take a 10mm socket. And we can pull that bolt out. And take your ground. Put it through, or put the bolt through the ring terminal, back through the factory ring terminal, and we'll just tighten this back down. What I did now is mount up and secure our box. And I just used this little piece of sheet metal that's there from the factory. There were some holes in it that happened to line up perfectly with the length of the box. So I used a big zip tie that came in the kit, ran it through those holes and around the converter box, and that'll work just fine to keep that in place. Now that we have everything hooked up, you want to take the included fuse and place that into the holder. So I was able to get our side panel and everything snapped back in place the opposite way that we removed it. And for our 4-way flat end here, just kind of have it coming right out of the side panel. And there's 2 ways you can route this. We're going to leave ours stored inside, but if you want to run it outside towards a hitch, there's a grommet underneath the spare tire that you can use. Pop out, cut a hole in it, drop the wire through, put the grommet back in. Be careful doing that though, because it's right by the exhaust system, and just be mindful that you want to do your best to keep this wiring away from hot parts. So, you know, living inside of our vehicle here, it's something we're just not going to have to worry about. Before we get too carried away putting all the panels and everything back together, I figured we'd test the wiring to make sure that it's working properly. I like to use a small tester like this as opposed to just plugging into your trailer. And I say because if your trailer has any issues, it might mislead you into thinking it's something you did on the vehicle side. With that in mind though, we'll try our left turn, our right turn. We'll hit our brakes and turn on our running lights. Since we verified everything works, I just put everything back together the opposite way that I removed it here. And we'll get our final floor covering in and close everything up. And with that done, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Curt custom fit wiring harness on our 2022 Subaru Crosstrek.